listening to the Power Up Podcast with your superpower experts. This is the place where we explore real-life superpowers and give you the tools to unlock your own.
Hello, everyone. This is Tonya Dawn Recla, your superpower expert, and I have with us today a really, really fun show. I am actually really almost like ridiculously excited about this topic because I think it is a make or break it for success in business, in the professions, in pretty much in life. And so I'm super excited to have with us today Bryan Falchuk. We're going to be talking about daily self-improvement, and he is the expert on these things. So his whole concept is do a day, right? And so it's like the idea of like, you know, you can try to eat the whole elephant or you can eat it one bite at a time. And I love this concept because I think anymore we're so overwhelmed with information and pacing and, you know, in our world, frequencies and vibrations and speeding up of things and everything else, that it's easy to get into this space of like, just, what do I do? And so he's all about how to live a better life every day. And he can certainly back this up. So not only is he a best-selling author, but he's written articles for like Inc. Magazine, Chicago Tribune, LA Times. He's a TED Talk expert at this point, right? I mean, how many times do you have to do that before you become an expert? Anyway, he's just fabulous. And I'm really excited to share him with you today and to dive into this topic. So please join me in welcoming to the show, Bryan Falchuk. Welcome, Bryan.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, we're really excited to feature you and to talk about this topic. But before we dive into that, let's just jump in and ask, what are your superpowers?
So I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it, but I think in simplicity, like I'm just kind of annoying. But what I mean is I don't accept the answers that are out there. I want to understand why. And I mean that mostly from the position of being someone's coach. Trying to help them understand themselves. And I help you probe yourself, which some people get annoyed by, but the reality is like, we're going to dig into stuff that I think you probably know under the surface, but you just may not be in touch with. And that is a key to moving yourself forward.
I love it. You're
is
like,
it annoying? So like
yeah,
annoying,
just
man?
kind of annoying.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that's a superhero. We should do like poke, but I'm not touching you. Poke, 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 poke.
I think my wife would agree, but probably for a different reason.
She's like, oh no, it's actually annoying. That's great. But it's true, right? Like sometimes we're not, I don't know that everybody is equipped for that level of self-reflection or is skilled. Maybe I should say we're all equipped for it. We're just not necessarily skilled in it. And I think you hit the nail on the head, especially as a coach, right? It's like it's our job to say the things that people maybe don't want to face, but that they're ready to hear. And so I really appreciate that. And that, so, but not just, I mean, I'm getting from you, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but it's not just like about the external environment, but I'd imagine you often turn that back on yourself also.
Oh, completely. Yeah. No, and I mean, I don't find myself annoying when I do this, but yeah, there's times where I need to just stop and say, you know, hang on, are you really in touch with what's going on here? Like, are you really in touch with what's driving you to behave this way or choose this thing or feel this way about, you know, whatever's happening? And the answer is pretty much always no. And that's okay. That's a chance to just stop and reflect and try to get into the surface and learn what the heck's going on, even with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that again, I've often said that my own self-doubt or self-introspection, you know, it's evolved over the years. But very clearly started off as self-doubt when I was much younger, and it's evolved into just that introspection and the willingness to do that, to take that pause and say, okay, where's this off? Like what's going on here? And I often teach people, you know, if the projection is off a little bit, if it's, you know, if there's friction with friends or with other people or just something's not looking like the way that you'd prefer for it to look, it's a good opportunity for you to take that look inside and ask what's going on there. You know, shortly after Neva was born, Justin and I kind of agreed that she was like our barometer. Like if something's off with her, like it's a pretty good indicator something's off with us, especially when she was a baby, you know, and it was like, what else could it be other than the response to something energetically going on internally for her or externally for us? But it helped us to look first at, okay, are we good? Like vibrationally, are we good? And if not, then let's look there first.
Yeah, kids are so attuned to that. So good for you for spotting that you now have this living barometer sitting amongst you.
Yeah, it was really fascinating to approach it from that place because, when you operate in some of these higher frequencies and levels of self-dominion, it's like you really can't blame anything else. And it's much easier just to get annoyed and just to get irritated with it. But for the most part, we always carry a piece of that also. I mean, if you're getting annoyed by it, then it's triggering something, right? Otherwise, you'd be able to kind of pass through it relatively unscathed is really my rule of thumb with it. Where did you, where did this concept of the do-a-day come from for you? It sounds so, I think on the surface, it sounds really simplistic, but in my experience, it is deeply, deeply complex to approach things from that way.
Yeah, it's simply complex. So it's, I've grown up with a lot of anxiety. My parents got divorced when I was really little. And as a result of being that emotional barometer, right? Like I didn't really know how to deal with those feelings. And so I turned to food, and I spent most of my life obese. I lost weight towards the end of my teen years, and I still hadn't dealt with the emotional reasons why I was obese and why I was overeating in the first place. Fast forward a number of years, I was married, had a 2-year-old kid at that point, and the anxiety was all still there. And I'd slowly been gaining back some of the weight. I lost 100. I was now 50 pounds overweight again. And there was this moment in 2011, my wife had become very sick with a chronic illness, and her doctors gave up on her, and she wasn't expected to make it more than a couple more weeks. And that was this moment that just brought clarity to me of like, what the heck am I doing with my life? I'm failing my wife. I'm certainly failing my son. Like I was a miserable person to be around, and that's certainly not what either of them needed, given what was going on in our family. And it's not what I needed. And so I woke up the morning after this final call from her primary care physician, who was like, "Hey, I'm going on vacation, nothing more to do. I'll talk to you in 6 weeks." I'm like, she's not going to be here in 6 weeks. So that was quite a wake up moment for me. And what I discovered through that was, my deeper why. It forced that stuff all right up to the surface about what I really care about, what truly motivates me. And I had been missing that through my whole life. And I recognized like this is a lifeline. And this is my one chance to grab hold of it and finally make the changes that I needed to make to actually get to a point of living my life and not just working in it. That was when I started to do a day. So on a daily basis, I refocus myself on my why, on what really matters and what I'm actually seeking for my life. And then I make the decisions about what I do in my day around that. So, am I acting aligned with that intention? And of course, there's some things that I do that don't have anything to do with, my ultimate purpose. Like there's some obligations in life, paying bills or whatever. But if you really think about it, do I like to pay the bills? Is that how I want to live my life? Well, no, but at the same time, I like having a roof over my head. I like having heat in the winter and air conditioning in the summer. And I like being able to provide food and clothing and, all the good things that we enjoy in life to my family and to myself. So there's bills that need to be paid with that. So yeah, in an indirect way, I am living aligned with the purpose of the kind of life that I want to have. So it's on this daily basis. And like all those things are too big, losing 100 pounds, paying for a house, like they're all giant things. Those are all elephants. So on a daily basis, you're not paying off your mortgage. You're not losing 100 pounds. You're not, whatever the other major things that either are challenges to you or things that you will face for the rest of your life or for a good number of years to come. You don't have to worry about all of it right then.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a similar experience. My story was just kind of looking for that perfect job, for so long. That's kind of what drove me. And then when I found myself as a counterintelligence agent, kind of running around chasing spies, I remember it was one day, I think we were cleaning weapons or something, like something just menial, right? It was just like, and it's like, really, I worked so hard to get to this place in my life where I'm like cleaning this weapon or I'm writing a report or whatever. And it dawned on me, similar to what you're talking about, was that, yes, but it was in service to something bigger. And that was kind of why that job was like this culminating moment in my existence, because I could always say like it was in service to national security, which, was a pretty big deal for where I was sitting at the time. And that was the first time I remember where I could trace the direct line from, even the little tasks and the day-to-day, like, do I really want to be doing this? But in service to this bigger thing. And I think that oftentimes, especially in some of the more like woo-woo self-development circles, we kind of bought this whole story of like, you have to follow your passion and live your passion. It's like, okay, great, but let's get a little bit more detail oriented with that and say there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot that goes into developing a successful, systemized, sustainable, scalable business. And not, you're not necessarily going to love all those pieces, but you can certainly draw the connection between that and being in service to the bigger image.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we need to take a quick break. I want to jump. I really want to explore some of these concepts and help people see how they can start adopting this. Really, I love it because it's such a methodical way of looking at things. This idea of daily self-improvement. But before we jump into a break, let's tell people where they can find out more about you.
So the easiest place to find me is at doadaybook.com. So, we're talking about Do a Day, and I've written a book by that name. So hopefully that's easy to remember. And I link everything else that I do up there. I also have bryanfalchuk.com, but then you got to figure out how to spell my name. So just doadaybook.com. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
I love it. All right. Awesome. Well, we've been talking with Bryan Falchuk today about daily self-improvement. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to walk you through exactly how you can get started thinking about things in this simply complex manner. So stay with us and we will be right back.
Are you here to change the world? Do you talk about things like vibration, frequency, awakening, and consciousness? Are you pretty sure you have superpowers? The Superpower Net is unlike normal coaching programs and conscious communities. We provide training, intuitive guidance, peer-to-peer learning, intensive one-on-one coaching, and a high vibrational network of people just like you. When you join the net, you get 24/7 access to a collaborative group of people who support you as you master your personal power and unlock your superpowers. If you're ready to use your superpowers to change the world, then join the Superpower Net today. Visit superpowerexperts.com/the-net to learn more.
Awesome. We're back. You've been listening to the Superpower Up podcast. We're talking today with Bryan Falchuk about daily self-improvement. So before the break, we talked about, and again, it's like the best word I have to describe what you're talking about is like this methodical approach, and it's just like da-dun, 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 but not in the wah, 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 wah kind of framework, but the really like, okay, check this box, and kind of like breaking it down. So if people know that they're kind of prone to this everything in the kitchen sink approach to life, and they're feeling overwhelmed by that, what are some of the things they can start doing like right now that help to simplify their existence for them?
Yeah. So if you have some major thing that you're facing that it's really big or it's really long or big and long, you have to break it into today's effort. So, I use my weight loss example a lot because it's really tangible and I think a lot of people can relate to it, but this really applies to anything. I could use running as an example. Like one of the best tricks for runners, if you're getting really tired, you don't want to go on and you still have a ways to go, is you pick some spot out in the visible distance that's not so far away, but is up ahead, and you run to that. So like, you pick a street sign a block away and you run to that. And before you get there, you pick the next one. So before you just come to an end, you've already set your intention on the next bit. It's the same thing with weight loss or anything else is, I'm not losing 100 pounds when I wake up today. And for years, that's the way I saw it. And that's why I could never start, because that is so unbelievably daunting. And you will absolutely fail every single day, which is that's not a recipe for success. I don't need to do that. Today, I just need to wake up and make choices that support me losing 100 pounds. I need to exercise. I need to eat better. I need to think more positively about myself and my capabilities, so I feel that positive energy of my success and moving forward towards my weight goal. So it's about looking at, in today's context only, what is it you need to achieve? And what's really crucial, and I talk about this a lot in Do a Day and in my coaching work, is we need to let go of two specific things that tend to hold all of us back. That's all of the past. So the pain of failure or things that we've experienced, hurt that we've had, or things we've lost. If you need to eat better today, did you screw up last night, and are you beating yourself up for that? Well, that negativity, that self like beating yourself up, that's not going to help you do better today, because you're going to bring all this sort of depression into the current context. And the same thing with the future. You bust your hump and you get down to, you've lost a pound today. That's great. You still have 99 to go. That is just about as daunting as the 100 pounds was, but it doesn't matter, because none of that stuff is happening right now. So you let go of yesterday and you let go of tomorrow. And that's why I say do a day like it's about today. And it's always today. It's never yesterday, and it's never tomorrow. Those things don't matter. So it's ultimately a choice to just live in the current moment, be mindful of that, stay connected to your purpose, and do what you have to do in this day in support of your bigger goals.
Beautiful. So when you're working with clients, how many times does it come up that's just not sexy? Like, that's just not the fun stuff, right? That's just, it's striking me as you're talking that we don't, we're this instant gratification society, right? Yeah. So we don't want to chunk it down. We want the jump off the edge of the cliff and fly, right? So
we just want to be done.
Yeah. So, how do you manage that with your clients?
Well, so I don't just jump right into it. So I start with a lot more work on values, and because you have to understand what really matters to you. You have to understand yourself at a values level, or none of the rest of it's going to work, because you won't even know why you're doing it. And even if you can get yourself an interim motivation, like, losing weight for your wedding, or busting your hump at work so that you get the big promotion or the big raise or whatever, as soon as that time bound goal is gone, what do you have left? So we got to move past those things and find the true, enduring, deep, profound motivators that exist within you, not externally, and not these ultimately frivolous things out there. So I spend a lot more time on that upfront work and getting people to, we're not only are we a very instant gratification society, but we're also very self-deprecating. We don't take compliments. You hear people at work all the time, competing over who worked more and who's more miserable. And the winner is the one who's get the worst boss and puts in more hours. We need to get to a place of more positivity about ourselves. So I spend a lot of time on self-love, self-respect, self-value, and your true motivators. When you get to a place of being comfortable with those things and being in touch with them, you don't want a quick fix, because you're operating at such a more powerful level. You want to really move your life forward. And you appreciate, because you've just gone through this journey to understand yourself, you appreciate the value of the journey to better yourself at the same time. So I don't really have that issue, because I don't just start with okay, we're not going to get you anywhere. Tomorrow you're not going to see any difference. It's like a hair growing problem. You don't notice that your hair is getting longer, right? Hopefully. I notice that my hair is falling out, but that's a different kind of problem.
That's a different thing altogether. Yeah. I love it. You're like, aren't you glad you hired me? We're really not going to do anything. That's cool. Yeah. You'll be all right.
It's that annoying superpower.
And it works. We're seeing it in action. But I think that's such a powerful thing. And so the big takeaway from that piece is, be at least as honest with yourself as you can possibly be. And I think that's where, intuitive coaches and people who can kind of see around you and don't really listen to the pretty story you're portraying, but can rather feel underneath of that, are so incredibly powerful, because we fool ourselves all the time. I remember going through a big part of my journey, and what was shocking was how much of this, how many layers to the story there was, and where the real motivation was coming from. And when you start to deconstruct things, I think that you said it very eloquently, was it shifts what the goal is. So if the goal is just the weight loss, then of course we just want the weight gone. But if the goal is the journey through the weight loss so that it can be fully integrated and complete, then every day is an accomplishment of that. And so it alters the conversation completely. And that's such a great lens to look through. And so folks, when you're, I get that a lot of us set out to manifest or to alter the projection in some way. That is our goal, is to create more money or whatever it is that drives you. It almost always in terms of changing the projection, but ironically, the projection itself doesn't change. until you no longer need it to reflect what it's been reflecting. And so it is an internal game, 100%. And while you may see some gains, and Bryan talked about this, where he had experienced the loss of weight, but then it came back, and why did it come? And so you start to see how, sure, you can do it, but if your goal is still the end result versus who am I when I step fully into that, then those are different strategies.
Yeah. Oh,
and I can see how you're mitigating the internal resistance by approaching it that way. It's very brilliant.
Yeah. I gotta cut you off to throw this out there, because this is why it gets exciting. And I had this awesome coaching call last night, and I wasn't just annoying. I had the woman in tears, just because it's deep stuff.
Annoying and combative.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
You
like
should
that.
Work with him.
It wasn't combative so much. It's just like I brought out so many upsetting things for her.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. But it needed to happen. But where we left things, and this is where I'm giddy right now, is like you will, when you get in touch with this stuff and you understand it, weight loss is completely irrelevant. Like, she was like, how do you maintain your weight loss? I'm like, I don't. I'm not a fat guy. I'm not spending my life trying not to be fat anymore. I'm just a healthy person. I'm not in maintenance. I'm just better. So when you get in touch with this stuff, the weight just falls off, and the bad job goes away, and you get to do what you actually care about, and the bad relationships are gone. And like, when you're aligned with your purpose, your life aligns too. So that's what gets really exciting. And that's where like the tears stop, and people are like, okay, yeah, I want to do another session with him. I wasn't so sure 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. But he was really annoying a minute ago, but now it's cool.
But it is like, that's the power of it. And that was the difference the first time around, is like, I spent my life in fear of getting fat again. My relationship to food was like, oh no, if I eat that, what's going to happen? Can I eat that? I really want to eat that. It's like you end up obsessing about it. And I don't care.
It just is.
It's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just better. It's like, I don't crave things really.
I love it. Well, and I'm laughing at the crying thing. Like, at one point I threatened to like create these like buttons that said Tonya made me cry, or like hashtag Tonya made me cry. Like it's a good day when you've got someone in tears, but it's the, that's such a powerful thing. And the way I describe it is just really, it just is like, it becomes such this outward expression of the, what we call, the self-dominion piece of that freedom within, of the sanctuary within, of all of that alignment that occurs. It just is like, it couldn't be any other way once you have that level of solidity around it. And that's true transformation. And so I appreciate that you're giving voice to all that. So let's leave folks with one last bit of advice before we have to cut off.
All right. So I'm going to give a quickie. This is the first step I do with everyone. It's on that self-love point. I tell people to stop the butt. And what I mean by that is like, I love, like, I'm cracking you up tonight. This is awesome.
You're awesome.
Not that butt, just BUT.
Oh, darn.
So here's the whole point of it is, this is part of that self-deprecation. When there's a nice thought about you in the world, our inclination is to dismiss it. And so it's like, if you make dinner for someone and they compliment you, like, so often it's like, oh, thanks, but I burnt the chicken, or thanks, but I that's what, either that's what we do, or say it to the next person who has you over for dinner, and watch, like, they're going to dismiss something about it. So it's just pronounced thanks. As soon as the word but forms in your head, stop it. Like, you look really good today. Oh, thanks. But this dress no, it's just thanks. And if you can't say that, how about just like, I'm glad you like it. You can at least be happy for the other person's enjoyment. And little by little, taking away that negativity, taking away that desire to put yourself down or to dismiss the good about you, allows the good to exist. And that starts to help you feel better about yourself. So that's like step one little exercise I give people, is just stop the butt.
I love that. And it's like, let that be a full sentence, Yeah. And it's no different than the conversations we take, typically women, but it's applicable to men too, obviously. The conversation that no is an entire sentence, just no, like, that's enough. Like, you can just simply say that. And I love that you bring that up. I made it a pact a few years ago to only speak what was true, only. And it was like, and you catch yourself, and it's like, the hardest one for me was when people die. And it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm actually not sorry. Like, I don't have that kind of feeling around death that sorry would even enter into it. It's like I'm so it took me a while to figure out what can I say that is in resonance for me, but that also allows the other person to feel held and supported in it. But you start to see all of the really toxic ways that we communicate. And like that self-dismissal, the like, yes, but, and it's not good enough. And it's like, what? Whoa. Like, yes, it is. And it's all that and more. So that's a really, really great step that people can take right now. Just really be cautious about how you're receiving things. And so the stop the butt is a great, I'm never going to forget that, which makes it absolutely perfect. So Bryan, let's tell people again one more time where they can go to find out more about you.
Yeah, so just head to doadaybook.com. Everything's there. And there's a great exercise just to start you on your path of figuring out what actually matters to you. If you just go to doadaybook.com/the exercise, free download. It's not too long, but whatever answers you put in those boxes, come back to it the next day, ask yourself why, and push yourself a level deeper than that.
Beautiful. Well, Bryan, thank you so much. I was so excited to share you with our audience, and I was not disappointed with the conversation. So thank you for joining us. That's and for sharing your wisdom.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I'm glad you weren't disappointed with the conversation.
I was not.
Hopefully not annoyed.
And you weren't even that annoying. That was awesome. Well, we've been talking to Bryan Falchuk today about daily self-improvement. Folks, go and check out his stuff. Take him up on the concept of, stopping the butts. I think that was brilliant. And just make a pact with yourself to chunk it down and really be clear about what your goals are and to start walking toward them. You don't have to get there right now in this moment. There's a lot of fun and discovery in the journey. So enjoy that. Bryan, again, thank you so much. And to all of you out there, as always, we appreciate your loyalty. Thank you for listening. And until next time, go out, uncover your superpowers, and change the world. Take care, everyone.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and discover your superpowers today.